All right, I want to make sure that everything is going live, so I got to keep yapping here to make sure that we're all good. Let me just check, see if there's any sound coming out of literally anything. Perfect. All right, everything's working. So obviously, I'm not on camera because I'm moving. It's finally time to actually move everything. Let me just make sure this is there. So I'm just gonna be showing the screen for this one today. I want to go ahead and talk about the Texans and Steelers. What's going on here? The Texans and Steelers slate tonight. Let me get everything on the screen here. So I'm not exactly uh, you know sure on where I'm going. I have a pretty good idea. Let me move this here. Let me share the whole screen. And shout out to Bobby Fye, who last night was competing to finish first in the Wildcat. Um, and I wasn't even watching the game. I just had a piece of that on State Kings, and apparently Allen dropped a touchdown in the end zone, apparently, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Um, but anyway, Bobby ended up finishing like seventh or whatever, and won like 12,500 yesterday, and I had a piece of that. I'm probably just doing one lineup today. I don't really want to goof around, especially just kind of how these contests are looking like, with where we're at today. Like, I don't really feel like it, and we'll talk about it when we go through the bills because I've already looked at some stuff earlier today. I don't really feel like throwing like 40, 50 lineups into this contest today with the low total. The $10 is nice, right? Like just yapping through and talking through the contest. I mean, I really like this $10 one, but still, um, ideally I'd like to play whatever last one playing in the major one and this one. And if I don't really feel like throwing 38 lineups in the 20, where it's like 780 whatever, and then throwing it in here, I just really don't feel like doing that. So I'm just doing one line. Um, I think there's only two true approaches today for this. Good afternoon, Andy. I think you either use Nico Collins or DK Metcalf in the captain. I don't think there's any other way to go about this slate. I personally don't see the need to go anywhere on a slate to where projections are so similar for everybody involved. Um, I think you use DK Metcalf or Nico Collins. And now, normally I don't mind doing that and just covering a lot of bases here, but this is a pretty ugly slate. So, like for example, right? I think this is the kind of bill that most people are going to kind of end up at, right? So Nico Collins, Stroud, Fairbairn. I think obviously this is going to project well. You look at any sim or anything based on even projections. You look at and again we're just looking at the 333 here. Doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to see what we're getting in terms of win rate, dupes, so on and so forth. And when we look at these lineups and stuff, we're looking at like the top projected lineups here with Nico Collins, right? And you see, okay, who's in there? Obviously CJ, because you're going to stack him with CJ. And then we have Gainwell, Fairbairn, Schultz, right? Now, the Pittsburgh side of this game is all over the place, right? They are expected to lose. They're expected to go against a tough defense. Kenny and Warren, you're gonna debate on who's the better play from this. Warren runs more, but Kenny's involved in the passing, whatever, right? I think those guys are just actually the exact same play, and their bust potential is the exact same. And I don't really like just straight up looking at the logs here, but like clearly used more, right? Going to be on the field more. Clearly used as a passer more, right? Where we're seeing Gainwell basically be used as a wide receiver. Um, Pretty separated by 200 points. I think you're getting to these guys based on whatever is left in your salary, right? I would just prefer DK Metcalf if people aren't going to play him. Obviously he's had a pretty lame year, and when you see here, we've only had two games over 20. Very very annoying situation to have him as your primary captain, but when you're looking at where these guys are projected at, you have CJ, Nico, Gainwell, Rogers, DK. I just play, wide receivers, right? I don't play quarterbacks. I don't want to play, a Rocky Gainwell or whatever. Those are your two highest projected, players in this, right? When we're looking at construction, right? This is where, this is where, if you're playing, if I was doing a lot of Nico Collins lineups, I mean, this is what the Collins lineups are looking like, right? Like, obviously, we have CJ here. We'll even just make this a bit easier to look at. We'll look at the top. We like 40. What if I was doing? Okay, what's going on here, dog? It's because I took this off. Why? What? Please remove out. That's what's going on. Let's just say if I was running, my 40 Nico Collins lineups, what are these lineups looking like, right? And being aware of what they look like, what everybody's running at, that's how you understand where people are going at. This is your best rated 40 lineups for the Wildcat. Most likely, if I was running 40 Nico Collins line, these would be the ones I throw in the 20, right? So what are these lineups looking like? You know, Obviously CJ Stroud, Fairbear. Now this is where you got to get a lower total. We see Steelers defense working its way in there quite a lot. Obviously, two kickers or whatever, Woody Marks, Schultz, and stuff. But we're seeing a lot of crossover. Very very similar lineups here. I mean, a popular lineup is this, and then just um, either another kicker or with DK Metcalf. Like for example, and we're looking at both the win rate and cash rate of these. And you're noticing the projections here that we have; they're all very very similar, right? This is probably really popular. What as well if you want a Texas onslaught. Um, this is what the portfolio would look like if you're running 40 in the 20, which I just don't really feel like doing that. I think you have a lot of lineups kind of dead on arrival, like this one, right? Not a huge fan of this one, right? Like I don't know what the fuck that is. And all these lines because everybody's projected so similar. The projection that these lines score are all within like 2 points of each other. Just going to be on how everything ends up breaking out, right? So the lineup construction of this slate is what is much more important, and that's what I'm here to talk about, or what I'm probably end up going to be looking at, right? So when we're here, right, I think you want one of the kickers, right? Obviously, we have one. We're looking at 6,300 left. Yes, Woody Marks is going to, be, the lead back from the Texans. We don't have, what's his name, whatever this guy is, this guy got injured, right? So the only people here on the Texas side of the running back side is, Woody Marks, right? Um, Due to that, one of the better or two of the value plays on the slate is coming from, Nick Chubb, Kirk, Austin, right? Steelers now by median projection, Steelers and Texas defense is gonna show better, right? But we have a situation of like a lot of lineups are like wanting you to go like this, with end up with Schultz, right? Um, if you don't go Warren, what if you get to now nobody's playing Aaron Rodgers, right? Nobody's expecting Aaron and the Pittsburgh Steelers to do anything, right? I.e., pretty decent leverage if you want to just put Rodgers in there. Obviously, it would make more sense if you had a pass catcher or whatever. But we're looking at a lot of similar lineups, and we can actually do it faster over here, right? We look at CJ Stroud, we look at Fairbairn. Okay, now we're looking at what are these three major like 3v3s looking at, right? And you can see that I'm personally not crazy on Pat, right? If we are expecting the Steelers to do pretty poorly, okay, I don't want to be paying 5K for an 8, a 9, a 7, a 2. Like we haven't seen really any outside of week 7, right? His Pat's projection should be like 7 points, right? Whereas like Dalton Schultz, slightly cheaper if I'm not crazy here. Actually slightly more expensive. But like I'd rather just pay up for Schultz who could, get me in the teens and stuff. But, a lot of things are going to be pushing towards Pat Steelers defense. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to play the Steelers defense. Okay, whatever. Showdown. I'm talking about like a contest with less than 1,000 people. I personally don't like playing the opposing defense against, a Houston team here, right? So like I'm not that big of a Steelers fan. So, as we go through who's, actually, let's go back here. Who is highest projected of the guys being used here? It's probably Schultz. Like, I think Schultz is a pretty good play today, right? I would say that he's at a price range that you can very easily get to. He is somebody who you can easily fit in with whatever, right? Like, I think Schultz makes a lot of sense, right? As we walk through this, you take Chubb out, and I think this is more of the core that people are going to be, or ideally you would want to be using and being aware of. Yet again, if you go Chubb, yet again, I don't know what lineups I'm playing. If you go Chubb and DK, makes sense, right? If you want, you know, Gainwell, you can move up from DK and hey, well, there you go. There's your Steelers defense. If you want, Woody, hey, you got a little bit more salary available. That's when you get Thielen, and Johnny Smith. Um, if you want Aaron Rodgers, okay, yet again you lose the Chubb value, but then you go to Christian Kirk, who is for whatever reason across the board is projected for like 3 points, which I'm not necessarily arguing about. I'm just saying that when we're looking at the value play specifically, and you're looking at where these guys project, you've Kirk at 5 points on SaberSim. Goldie has him for 6, right? So he seems like a better play over, Nick Chubb or whatever. So you have him available, right? Hey, man, I mean, look, like, yeah, as I said, this is the type of lineup or slate that you're looking at. If you don't trust the kicker, which I don't know why you wouldn't, especially when they're, scoring like 8 points in every game, you could easily throw Higgins in there. Like, and this is kind of like how I'd prefer to build. If you don't like that, we have two, stone minimum guys that you can use to play, and that's Stover, who's on the field like 33% of the time, and is gonna catch a pass and then go for like 4 yards and probably end up with 1.5 points. And you also have a situation where we have seen it before this year, where so it's already down a running back from Houston, a gentleman who has seen opportunities this year, who has scored 2 touchdowns on the goal line, dare, you know, for minimum price, right? If everybody is projected, it inflates to where your projection is so similar. I think it's where, and I'm gonna use Stover here just for the visual representation, but uh among the I always forget how to pronounce the name. Stover or Dare could be used for this. I'm just holding like placeholder, right? Where does this lineup score? Let's just see really fast, right? You have, we're looking at, the projections right around, 74, 75, whatever, right? So you have Nico. Rather, let's just do this. Let's just use the projections that we have here, and I'll read the chat in a second. I'm just making a point here of what I look for um, in single tree lines, high upside, whatever, right? What is this line looking at? We have Stroud. I'll take DK out of this for now. Stroud Schultz. We'll use Stroud Schultz first, right? So we have 22 plus 10.53 plus 16.07. Whoa, who else do we want to throw in here? We'll just put together a lineup that I think would make sense here. Do we have Fair in here yet? We don't have Fair. So where's Mr. Fair? Oh Lord, where are we at, dude? It's 8.89. So plus 8.89. All right, right now we're at 58.2 points, right? We're gonna include Stover as a 0. Actually, we have what is he projected for here? What's Mr. Stover projected for? Pogawali's at 1.4. Stover 2.27. So plus 2.27. We're at 60 points, right? Here. Fair Schultz CJ. Fair Schultz CJ. All right, you got like 12,000 left. If you just take whoever is left, whether that be Rogers, DK, Rogers projects for 14. That goes for, now you're scoring 74 points. You have DK who scores, I don't know, fucking anywhere between 12 and 16. You're scoring 72 to 76 points. Warren, whatever. This last guy, if he hits, a median outcome here, right? This lineup, and I'm just saying, that's what Stover. You could probably pay up and put Schultz in here or Higgins or whatever, right? This lineup is going to project very similar to, I don't know why I still have Stickings open. Very similar to this projection here, right? So if you're played, a small field, I think Mbungawale, I think Stover makes sense. I think Christian Kirk would make sense, right? So like that's what we're doing in the value range to just make a Nico Collins lineup work. You have even more openness if you want to just do it with DK, because then you're automatically getting different, which is what we want to do in DFS, like this here, right? Like you have, your quarterbacks, whatever. We'll even use Kirk here, so we're not going all the way to the bottom. Well, we probably wouldn't use Kirk there. We'll use Stover, whatever, 47. Now you can get a kicker. Now you can get whoever, or not a kicker, but you can get Texans, or maybe you don't trust Aaron Rodgers, whatever, right? Like that's killer. You punt worse, go Schultz, Calvin Austin, whatever, right? So like I just think you play DK Metcalf or you play Nico Collins, you play that corresponding quarterback, you play one kicker. Okay, that's 3 parts of your lineup done. And then I think Schultz makes a lot of sense on this slate from a raw projection, from a involvement perspective from Houston. I think you can get away with fading Woody Marks on this slate. I don't foresee him hitting like a 12 to like 18 point score. right? So I'm perfectly fine not having any involvement in the running game of Houston. I don't think he's going to necessarily score well enough to do anything. That's completely destroying your chances in a slate. Um, I like DK, I like Warren, I like Gainwell. Those three, I think, are similar in terms of their upside. I don't think there's really any difference in the two running backs on Pittsburgh's side from a projection standpoint. One will work, one won't. We don't know who that is. If Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, gets the lead and can run the ball, it's going to be Ward. If they're behind by like fucking 3 scores, it's going to be Gainwell. Who's the guy that Aaron is probably going to be thrown to try and make something happen? It's probably going to be DK. I think DK's projection tonight is 15 points. And I just think that's how you play the slate, which is yet again why I don't really want to just throw lineups in the 20 and stuff. I just feel like there's gonna be so many dead on arrival. I I'm just gonna be playing. I mean, you can. This is all I'm doing today, right? I don't really foresee a reason to do anything else. These will all be the same line, but I'm just doing one line today. Let me see what Dairy, not Dare. Am I crazy over here? Have I been saying that? All right, Google. Let's. How do you pronounce this name? Oh man, dude. Hold on. What's going on here, dude? Usually it pops up or whatever, dude. What is? Dude, is AI gonna give me anything? Crazy. Whatever. Let's see. Let's see. I was not seeing Calvin Austin in my stuff earlier. At least I don't think I was. Let me go ahead and look. Yet again, let's just look back at my top 100 line. Also, this was just using Saver some stuff earlier because like I'm hand building that anyway. I don't think it really matters. It might be different under Goldies, but we'll look at. Do I have any Calvin Austin? I mean, I got him at like 6. I got him and Mr. Derry around the exact same for what it was worth, and like top 500 lines for this stupid contest. I mean, all these guys are pretty similar. I would either play Christian Kirk or Stover today. I like Christian Kirk. Now I don't know ball, but he's projected better than Stover, and he's $2,600. I guess I would roll with that. Um, let's see. Oh, that's so funny. I did say it. I said his last name perfect, dude. That's so funny. Yeah. I think this is it. Um, and yet again, I'm only doing one lineup today, and I can tell you right now, I'm playing Nico Collins as the captain. Um, that's all I'm doing. I'm not entering $166,000. I'm just running that. I mean, when I uploaded this earlier, I already reserved the 333 and the 444. I just took that off. But I normally just build with one of those contests in, and then I just look at who is cashing better. Also, another thing that is not concerning isn't the word. Like, notice how these cash rates. Now we do have some 33s in here, some 30s and stuff. Normally a cash rate seems to be a little bit higher on a slate to where there's like actually like a slam dunk on what's going to happen here. If I rebuild these really fast and run What is it? Oh yeah, duh. Compliance warning. We'll take Thielen out of captain. Why not? Normally, you will see, and yet again, this isn't ROI or anything, just the cash rate of a contest, right? Contest based on top 20% or whatever. Usually, the good-ish lines, even before, you see them cashing around like, more like a 34, 35, 36% of the time, 38 or whatever in the Sims. While there was some 32s and stuff, there's a ton of lineups that had like 28% cash percentage, right? Let's go and look at what is given it or what they all have if you just run everybody in general. We'll probably see something similar, probably see a lot of CJ Stroud captain lineups as well, but they'll probably also be, I'm guessing, around 26 to 29, 30% cash rate, which indicates to me that it's a pretty close slate. Come on, dog. Come on, dog. What are we doing? Why do I gotta run this again? Let's see. I appreciate the 40 guys being here and watching this. I know, I think Ship It Nation has their show on right now, but this is the only time I could do anything today in between the move. Okay, so like now we have everybody, involved, right? And we're just looking at the cash rates here 32, 22, 23, 31, 21, 22, 25, 26, and we're all over the place on terms of, captains and whatever. That typically happens when a game total is low, when everybody's projections are pretty close together. I mean, we don't have a single person over, in the 20s, which is pretty rare. Um, this just seems like a terrible slate to enter a lot of lines in any specific contest because like any one thing breaks, there's like half the contest is going to be dead on arrival, right? Like, so I'm gonna play Nico today in the I'm playing Nico, CJ, probably Dalton Schultz, and probably Fairbairn. Those four will probably be guys that I play. I got to figure out the last two, but I think that's probably what I'm going to be running. And I do believe that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. Just wanted to talk really fast, and yeah, that's about it. Let's go ahead and see if I can shut this little guy off. I'll see you guys later. Whoa, crazy.